This might be the 50-gram wireless Zowie EC2 that we have all been waiting for. The Pwnage StormBreaker does many things amazingly well, but there are also a few flaws, and one is these holes on the sides. They feel very uncomfortable, at least for me. I'm basically forced to use grip tape with the mouse, but luckily these are included in the box. The second flaw for me is that although these clicks are easy to actuate, they are not really that easy to spam. For example, tap firing in CSGO is quite uncomfortable, and I feel that is due to the rebound with these Magnesium triggers. The last flaw are the side buttons, which do feel incredibly high quality, but these are really hard to actuate. It does not cause a problem for me, as I mostly use these for push to talk, but if you use these in-game and you spam them, it might be a deal breaker for you. That's basically it for the flaws, and everything else is either good or amazing, so let's continue with the performance. There is about 0.5 milliseconds of motion latency against the CA13C, which is good for sure, but not the best that you can achieve with 2000 Hz, as some 1000 Hz mice have the same amount of latency, and for example the Atlantis 4K has about 0.5 milliseconds less latency. But the sensor performance is overall great, as the polling rate is fairly stable at 2000 Hz. There are some outliers that happen from time to time, but it's not consistent on my system. And the 1000 Hz polling rate step is then again all over the place, and they should be looked at. Moving over to click latency, which is actually very good, as I got about 0.65 milliseconds for 2000 Hz. And 0.71 for 1000 Hz. So yeah, these results are very good, as the mouse has pretty much the same click latency as the HDS Plus 4K at 4000 Hz, and pretty much 2 times slower than the Atlantis 4K. Overall, it's very impressive for Pwnage, but at this price I would want the mouse to have absolute top tier performance, and I think it can squeeze out a little bit lower motion latency. Nothing that would of course make any difference in game, but I think that is what we deserve. But let's stop talking about performance. So the shape is going to be very familiar for basically anybody who has ever used an EC3 or an EC2. It's basically right in between of these two in terms of size, where it pretty much feels in terms of high profile like an EC2. So there is a little bit here on the left side of the mouse, a little bit of a ledge or a hump, which you definitely can feel when you grip the mouse. And that is not much there on the EC3, so this sort of feels more like a low profile, smaller ergo. And then again the StormBreaker feels like a higher profile one, especially here on the left side, so you can feel the hump right here. And that same feeling you get with the EC2, but the StormBreaker is a little bit shorter than the EC2, and also what makes it feel a little bit shorter is the sharp edge right here on the front. Looking at the EC2 and the StormBreaker from a side profile, they also look very similar, so there is not much difference in the shape, but more so in the size. The sharp front right corner can actually prove to be sort of a game changer for some people who want to grip their mouse by just having their ring finger and their pinky near that corner or even touch that corner. But it's not a massive improvement or anything, it just can be a nice consistent spot to hold your finger in when you're clawing the mouse. All in all, the StormBreaker ends up kind of feeling like an EC 2.5. Very familiar, very good and very comfortable. Especially if you are used to claw gripping these ergo mice, the StormBreaker will feel very good for you. One major difference between these mice is of course going to be the weight, so the StormBreaker weighs 50 grams and feels extremely lightweight, which is a little bit weird for an ergo mouse in my opinion. It feels very good but extremely lightweight. I've never had an issue with weight on the EC3 or the EC2, and these weigh about 80 grams. Next up we're gonna talk about aiming, and I decided to start a little something for my own personal fun, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well, but this is sort of a little competition for myself, where I play these few selected Kovac scenarios and the CSGO aimbots training scenario, and run this same competition for all the mice, all the mousepads that I get for testing to see what kind of scores do I get. Now keep in mind that this is not a scientific test or anything, this is mostly for fun, and I think it can be entertaining for you guys as well. So let's get into it, and I would say that I did completely fine with the StormBreaker. Out of the 3 Kovac scenarios, I broke records in 2 and got quite close on the 3rd one as well. Anyway, I would say the target switching with some tracking felt the most natural for me with the Stormbreaker. I had some trouble with smoothness and tracking and the CS code test where it's basically only click timing. But overall things went fine considering I've only used this mouse for about 2 weeks. And these are the results that I got, and I'm not super happy with these, but I think they are alright. So yeah, those are the results, and let me know what you guys think about this idea. Do you find it at all interesting? Do you find it at all entertaining? But do not let my in-game performances or Kovac scores affect your buying decisions. My review should be fairly in-depth, so you can make your decision without even knowing these things. One thing to mention is that this mouse actually has adjustable sensor position, and the position that I enjoyed the most in basically all the scenarios and in every game is actually the most down or most backward sensor position, which is most likely or usually not the thing that I do like. I usually like it fairly central or even more forward, but with this mouse and with the ergonomic shape, I do prefer it a little bit more towards the back. It's actually quite central even when you put it as far back as you can. There is still one more thing to discuss, and that is the price, which is fairly crazy. 200 euros for us Europeans and 190 for you US folk. For gaming mice in these price ranges, it's basically impossible for me to recommend for you to buy one, but it's also hard for me to recommend for you to not to buy one. And that's basically it for this one. Hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next one.